Welcome, everybody, to Ghostlight. This is a podcast about the nuts and bolts of being a creative and paying the bills. Each week, I sit down with people who are navigating that delicate balance in real time. They're working and making it work. And joining me today is my good friend, Topher Embrey. Topher, welcome.
Thank you, Ben.
I'm thrilled to see you. Tell me where you just came from.
So I just came from a student matinee of 12th night. I'm back working at ASC again for the winter season. So yeah, we just did 12th night for a bunch of high school, middle schoolers. You know how it goes. You've done that before. So it was nice. They were good kids. They were well behaved. So you could not ask for more.
Yes, I always remember student matinees as being the most service-oriented part of the job. It really feels like you're doing something for your community, for the next generation, and introducing them to something that a lot of them probably haven't experienced before. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm from Virginia, so my first ever professional theater experience was at the American Shakespeare Center. I was like a freshman in high school or a sophomore, and we saw A Midsummer Night's Dream, and an actor named Henry Bazemore Jr., whom I never met, don't know, but I only knew through the archives, played Oberon. And him playing Oberon kind of opened up things for me because it was a man of color. So I never really and those, it's not like it was taught to me that Shakespeare wasn't for people of color. I just had never seen any until that time. So yeah, it definitely is a service because it came around full circle. I ended up working here for several years on and off again. So yeah.
I love that. I did not know that part of the story. That's really
But
cool.
yeah. But yeah.
Uh, so tell me, one of my favorite questions to start out is, if I was meeting you at a cocktail party, how would you tell me about what it is that you do?
I probably wouldn't tell you. I would I would I would probably play it off like I was something else. So when I tell people what I do, it's funny. I have these, if I'm to be honest with you, I have these winds of shame sometimes when I'm not working, and then I tell people I'm an actor, and they're like, "What do you do?" And like, "Where have I seen you on TV, Broadway?" That's the first thing they always go to. But I tend to think of myself as like an artist for the community, um, because community is so important in the arts. I feel like, because that's how you get to know each other better, and you end up becoming a source for people in many ways. But yeah, I mean, to be frank, I just tell people I'm an actor and an educator is typically how I'll phrase that, because I believe so much of what we do as artists is education as well, right? Whether it's educating ourselves or educating others, there's always some form of knowledge that is to be learned and to teach in many ways. Whether you're on stage, backstage, on the sidelines, whatever it may be. But yeah, I always introduce myself as as an educator and an artist.
You mentioned that there are times during your year when you're not currently involved in a contract. Talk a little bit more about because when I think of you, Topher, I think of you're one of the success stories. You're one of the people out there who's doing it, working, all the time is what's in my head. Tell me a little bit about the tension that exists between, working contract to contract, and what do you do in between?
Oh, it's not always the most sustainable career, right? Which is why so many times or so often we have to find other jobs in between, or other things that, whether they make us happy or whether it's just a paycheck, we have to do. And so I've talked about this with a lot of my friends, that feeling of, if you're not working, you just aren't an actor. You know what I mean? The feeling that does not necessarily mean that's true, but there's that idea of, well, if you're not on stage currently, or if you're not at least, a week or two, maybe a month away from a gig, there's always that shame that I always put on myself, because I'm like, well, what am I doing? Right. And that's a month of not getting paid a specific salary. I mean, there are other things that I do to get paid, but uh, yeah, there's always that shame that's always in the back of my head, unfortunately. Um, but I often battle it with the good things, right? For instance, that sweet comment you just said of like, you're the success story. It's nice to think that, that gives me a little boost of confidence. But yeah, that's really where that shame comes from. I try not to compare myself to other people's journey because I have friends who are like me and they'll get booked like half the year or they'll get booked the full year or like within little increments throughout the year because that's a part of our career, right? You're not always booked, so you have to find other creative ways and other creative outlets. But uh I try not to compare myself to other people's journeys because I have friends who are like booked all the time, but they also live in New York, whereas I'm still based in Virginia and happily so.
Mhm.
I I don't think I don't think I not that I don't try hard enough, I just don't think New York is for me unless something brings me up there, which is very blasé-da to say. But, I'm too much of a country boy, man. Like, I love Virginia and all of its charm, and I love being close to my family. I know you're a family man, family means a lot to me, and, um, tomorrow isn't promised, so I try to be around my family as much as I can when I am around them. So that's another thing that kinda pulls me out of it. It's like, yeah, Topher, you're not working, but you're with Ma, or you're with your mom, or you're with your dog, or you're with your best friend, or, whatever it is, and, opportunity will come knocking. Just be patient. Patience is definitely a thing you have to have in this industry. Patience and
It
drive.
it does tend to be the type of career that asks a lot of sacrifice from the people who want to participate, and
I mean, think about it. How many weddings and like even funerals and things have you missed because they won't let you go or they won't sign you if you have that one day of conflict. They just won't do it. And I get it. You have to make money, but there's so many things, like you said, sacrifices that we make too. It's awful, but it's
well,
also a joy too.
tell me, has that shifted at all in your experience since I feel like it has changed a little bit since the way it was before the pandemic and the way that it is now after the pandemic?
It's interesting, right? Because there's actually three phases to that. There's before the pandemic and then the after. And the pandemic, there were a lot of things that in the arts and in TV and film, we had to kind of look inside and go, that's not right. Now, the fact that we know it's not right doesn't mean it's still not happening, certain things. And so it just depends on the theater. Like there are certain theaters that will allow for conflicts during rehearsal, depending on what they are. There are some theaters that won't. There are some theaters that are very much like no conflicts. You know, we can't have any conflicts because this is a 2-week gig and we just don't have the time to lose you that 1 or 2 days, so it really just depends. But yeah, I feel like after the pandemic there was some leeway and some kind of self-reflection and the sense of we can make this work. I had a friend actually recently audition for a theater in Texas, and she told them that she was local, which is something I always do too sometimes, just to be like, and I'll make it work. And then she was like, "Oh God, she got the gig." And she was like, "Topher, I don't know what to do." I said, "The worst thing someone can say is no." So I said, she sent me a draft of her email, and I said, "You don't need to say all this. I learned that from the best. I learned that from Constance of like email drafts." And I said, "You just need to state the facts. Say, I would love to have a conversation about the fact that I'm not local, and this is what the pay reflected when I was offered, or not offered, when I auditioned for this job, and this is what the pay is in the offer." And I said, "The worst they can say is no." And that friend ended up saying, "Hey, I would like to chat with you for a bit," and brought up these concerns. The theater was very lovely and said, "We'll get back to you." A week passed. She was freaking out. And then a day passed. And she ended up not only getting housing, but transportation and a pay bump, which is so great. That's so great when things work out the way we want and sometimes need them to in order to accept a job. Um, but again, the worst a person can say is no, and then that leaves it up to you. So yeah, theaters, it give or take. Like that's a story of hope, right? There are some theaters that be like, "Oh, well, it said on your thing that you were local, so we can't hire you with all due respect." So yeah, I think it's changed. I think it's changed, and it ebbs and flows as the career does with change.
Yeah, because then we've gotta figure out, well, what happens when, you're playing this important character in the play, and then you're not there on a given Saturday, and how does the whole system continue without breaking? And, my most recent contract, doing A Christmas Carol, we had understudies from the very beginning, and swings from the very beginning, and a lot of planned outs because it was a pretty long run. And so, there would just be a night where that swing was in, and that actor was out, and we got really used to that. And most of them, I think, were anticipated absences, but it's also good just for a sustainable ecosystem to have people on the ready to stand in.
Right. I mean, this past year for Christmas Carol, I think one of our swings went up, because like I said, I do it at Denver. One of our swings went up, and our swings are incredible. Um, and she went up for all 3 of her tracks, and then the other 3 swings didn't go up at all this season, which is good, but I felt so bummed for them in a way because, that I personally don't love being a swing or an understudy, but I know people who thrive at it and who are great at it. It just gives me a lot of anxiety. But those who are have that focus and that talent and that, they they love going up. And at the very end, we're like, "Thanks, everyone, we know you didn't get to go up this season, but that's what you're here for, right?"
Right.
You're not
Right.
gonna be on stage all the time, but the moments you are, you're on, and then you're celebrated. I've never worked in an environment where we do not celebrate the swing or understudy because whether they are confident or not, they will be celebrated, because it's a new
We
energy, it's exciting.
Yeah, we had incredible swings, in our cast as well, and I remember looking at them, both studying and preparing and getting ready, covering like 5 or 6 tracks, and then executing with such grace and precision, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Wow, I mean, I don't think I got it in me." That's a lot of mental energy and concentration and focus. They had dances, they had lines to learn. It was really
You'd have to
impressive.
give me a drink to put me on stage after like that. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, so as I said earlier, I think of you as one of the, classic examples of a success story. You work all over in the regional theater scene at some of the best classical institutions in the country. Do you feel like you've reached a point of sustainability? Does this feel like something you could carry on for the next 10 years or
No, for me, it's I've reached a point of questionability. Like I'm like, all right, so this is not necessarily I went equity 3 years ago and I do not regret it because it was time. I was 30 years old. Um, and I was like, I was like Aretha Franklin, like, you gotta pay me my dues now, I ain't gonna be getting this low paycheck for doing all this work, baby. So I went equity, and for the first couple of years, it was great. Or, well, like for the first like year and a half, it was great. I was constantly booked, but that was because I had already established myself in these non-equity places, or not non-equity, but in the places where I was non-equity, like American Shakespeare Center. My friend Jeff Kent was able to get me out at Arvada, and then from there, I went and worked at Colorado Shakespeare Festival because I was actually in town. And then I worked at Denver Center because of all these connections. It's Colorado is such an interesting place because um, some oftentimes, or in some cases, theaters don't really mingle like that. But my casting director, or the casting director for Denver Center, also happened to be the choreographer in the play I was in at Arvada Center. And so there was that connection. My director for Coriolanus that summer at Colorado Shakes came to see me in the show at Arvada and just so happened to be directing the Christmas Carol that upcoming season at Denver Center. So I kind of got that kind of, I
Mhm.
did not work that field like that. It just kind of the cards were laid out for me to succeed out there, and I was very grateful for it and still am. Um, I think with post pandemic, speaking of which, there have been so many theaters closing. I think I saw the clip of Vanessa saying, every month, during the pandemic, it was really scary because you'd see like 2 theaters closing per month. And those theaters are still closed, and, we lost so much of, that kind of we lost so many opportunities with that, like, we, the collective, not equity or non-equity, just we as artists, because we could not, we were in a state of panic. This we were dealing with, a pandemic, and things were closing, and there was so much unclarity. There wasn't much clarity, or, like, what would the future hold. So I went equity after the pandemic, and I think I did not make a mistake, but I realized, oh, there are lesser opportunities in some instances. And so for me, I had to figure out, what do I do in the in between, which is like, I could do voiceover work like Constance. I could work like a regular 9 to 5 job. I could teach classes. I could offer my own teaching style. I could be a substitute teacher. So yeah, I think it's sustainable with something else. For me personally, I have to, if it's going to be sustainable, I have to figure out something else to do as well when I'm not employed in between, which is a tough thing to do, right?
Mm.
Because even a friend, I know another friend of mine, his wife, um, has a shop on eBay, and she just thrifts and will sell these things on eBay. That's part of her when I'm not working gig, like when I'm not fulfilling my passion or pursuing, my dreams, because, I'm still in the waiting room. That's what I do. I mean, there are some people who own restaurants, you know? So I think it's sustainable, but you must have something else on top of that. Um, and that's okay. That's what makes it sustainable for me, at least. And you have to have a good mentality about it, right? I'm of the state of mind, and I just talked about this with Constance the other day. If I win, you win, I win. And then I added on to that and I said, I will celebrate someone else's win, even if it is the loss of my own, because this industry is small, and there's so much to be grateful for, even though, Rome wasn't built in a day and things aren't perfect and they never will be. We must celebrate the accomplishments and the success, even if it isn't our own. You have to have a good mentality in this industry. It's not easy. It's not easy to do anything these days, but especially be an artist, a freelancer. That's some tough stuff. But
Is
yeah,
there is there any part of you that I don't know if you've heard this line of thinking in your social media feed, or when you watch reels, or wherever you consume your media, but I've heard this theory that creative people and storytellers in the era of artificial intelligence are actually going to be very highly valuable, in that real storytellers with the training and all of that as we get inundated with more and more uh generated inauthentic creation, that there might be a pushback in the other direction of being, will lean in more to live performance, lean in more to storytellers. Have you seen that? What do you think? Do you
I
think
haven't
that's
seen that. I have not seen that,
hmm. What do you
unfortunately.
think?
I think I think, speaking of, coming back from a student matinee, that can be true and should be true. I want it to be true. But I think that's why it's so imperative that we still have things like student matinees, and that we still have things like, acting classes and, directing classes, whatever it may be that your heart desires in the field, because it's not all about actors. It never was. But as long as you keep pushing for that, as long as we, the community, continue to push for that for this younger generation, I think that will be the right direction, because they are so engulfed. I mean, they were born with the phones in their hand, unlike us, where, we were of the age of computers and things like that. But yeah, I want that to be true. And I think that's why what we're doing is so imperative. Because yeah, I have a huge issue. I knew we should have known this was coming. Like things like CGI, you know, because I think that ruins the art. Because I'll watch movies and shows that were before CGI, and you can just see how terrifying. I mean, Neverending Story. Do you remember that? There
Hmm.
was no CGI in that. Falcor was built from ground zero, and so was like that crazy wolf and all the things. Like Jim Henson was an incredible artisan of his craft. And we don't see that anymore because of things like CGI and now AI. Um, and we have to keep on keeping on with the craft and show them no, actually, when you work hard at something or when you have a master's in something, a master of your craft, and I don't mean degree, I mean something you've worked for a long time. That is so much more tangible than something like artificial intelligence. So yeah, I did not hear that saying. I want to see it. Send me the
Yeah, I'll find some links for you and send them.
I like all the anti-AIers. It's one of my favorite things. I'm not gonna lie, I got caught up in it when I didn't think it was gonna blow up like it did, but then I immediately stopped. But yeah.
Well, so here, I'll give you an kind of an interesting example. And this just happened to me. I think it was this morning, but I was scrolling as like you do. And I came across like it was content, and it was connected to like being a dad. It was very well produced, and it was all about fatherhood, so targeted pretty well to me. Um,
Hmm.
and it wasn't until I had watched the whole thing. It was longer than the typical reel, like maybe a minute and 30 seconds. But somewhere around 60 or 75 seconds in, I'm like, oh, I think this is a Cheerios commercial. For
No
real.
way.
Yeah.
You got caught up in a Cheerios commercial.
Well,
That's fantastic.
but it was like they understood that they had to create value for the person watching it. Like it had to reach me on a different level. I don't eat cereal.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't until it got to the point where it was breakfast time, and he was gonna feed his kids, and he pulled out the box and said, this new peanut butter Cheerios.
It's not only for kids, it's also for the dads, like something whack like that.
I mean, but it does make me think, like, every brand out there is trying to figure out how to connect with an audience who entertains like this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Every company, everybody who's in business is trying to figure out how do we tell a story in a compelling way to how do we reach our people, because the old models are gone. I mean, like cable's gone, and
Yeah. And unless, it's weird. I had to retrain myself because I refuse to. I say that now, but I know some people who constants who might watch this might know the truth. I am trying to retrain myself to watch ads again because, we're in that transition of where you don't have to watch an ad for a YouTube video. Oh, you have to watch like a 30-second one, and now it's like 2 minutes long. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And then I have to realize I'm like, Toph, you grew up watching ads. What's the big deal? Go to the bathroom, go get another cup of water. That's what you always did. But yeah, they are trying to find different ways of marketing, and a lot of that is being used via AI. It's interesting because at the very beginning of the year and a little bit of last year when AI kind of was at its peak, and it still is in many ways, I saw all these commercials and places use AI, and then you have so many people who are against it that I've seen now a fine balance of not using AI or using a real person, but then there's an AI background or something like that. Um, but yeah, the algorithm is a thing that always captures my attention in very weird ways, especially when I'm scrolling because my videos are insane. I find the most insane shit. But I'm like, oh, why does my algorithm think I like this? Oh, because I do. Because now I'm like, what's going on? But see, you're a dad, so you get caught up in Cheerios commercials.
I do, and it was like it also kind of pulled at your heartstrings, right? And was,
Uh,
yep, making you realize like it means something to be a dad. But then I'm like, ah, but they're getting at me with this Cheerio stuff.
yeah.
Um, so, but here's something interesting that I learned recently because I'm reading a book on about Marty Sklar, who was one of the Imagineers at Disney and helped to build the parks, and he did most of like the copywriting. He wrote a lot of, you know, letters and press releases and would craft the words for the plaques in Disney parks. But there is so many references in his book to how they would go and partner with corporations in order to achieve the funding that they needed to execute Walt Disney's vision.
Mm,
And so it came to mind because of the Cheerios thing and because of, just identifying how difficult it is for, not just actors but designers and technicians who want to work in theater, and yet it does feel like we don't have enough oxygen, right?
mhm.
Like and if the oxygen is money, the thing that makes the world go round, like there's just never seems to be enough. Um, and so that leads me to my question, which is, how is the current model a win for actors, and how is it quietly failing actors in this moment?
Are you saying nonprofit?
I guess just like the industry as a whole. I don't think necessarily nonprofit
Oh,
or
okay. I can tell you how we are failing actors because I have a lot of opinions about that. Um, you know this, I know this, and I got caught up in it the other day because I love it so much. I love seeing Black women succeed, but then I also have to think you got enough money. So Megan the Stallion is on Moulin Rouge right now, and I was like, hell yeah, like that's awesome. Then I thought, oh, that really sucks in a way because now Broadway, even Broadway, is bringing in these already rich professionals who aren't even really, not saying that Megan the Stallion can't do theater. I bet she's amazing, and I would still put my money to go see that amazing woman. This is just an example of this is how we bring people in now. And then that's taking away an opportunity from someone who could have gotten their break in that moment. And Broadway's always been that way, but it's still been within the Broadway realm. Like Patti LuPone was in TV, was on Broadway before she was in TV and film. Like I, so many other people were doing that as well. They started on stage. That stage brought them to film. Film brought them back to stage. Whatever. But now we're getting people like Usher, and that Usher's playing so and so in Chicago. And even this past summer, Shakespeare, a dear friend of mine, Mia, who you might know, she was yeah, love her. She was in the ensemble of Twelfth Night this past year when they did it Shakespeare in the Park, and I heard it was great. But then I had to think to myself, I said, because I tried to get my agents to send me in for it, and the only role left was Fabian. And I thought, I'll do that, whatever. Fabian's got, you know, some lines at the end. Ain't nothing wrong with no Fabian. But everyone else was cast, and you had, you know, I can't even remember the cast list, but what is his name? He played Malvolio. Oh God. But anyways, you had all these celebrities doing Shakespeare in the Park, which is not a bad thing. But then I think, oh, you're taking away so much. Peter Dinklage. Peter
there
Dinklage
it
was
is.
Malvolio. There we go.
That's it.
And I think uh oh, I can't remember the rest of the cast, but it was a oh what is her name? Junior Nyong'o and Lupita played the twins, which I was okay with. I've worked with Junior; he's a sweetheart. Um, I thought that would have been enough in a way to have
Mhm.
Lupita Nyong'o and maybe a well-known, I don't know, stage actor and film actor from time to time. But it takes away so many opportunities for those of us who have been doing Shakespeare for so long. And like won't get seen because that's not gonna sell the tickets. With they don't know you, which is taking the opportunity for them to get to know us. It's always about that big break, and not everyone's gonna be famous. Another thing is that damn TikTok that is making everyone famous, and I'm happy to say that, like, I'm not famous on that. I wanna be, maybe, I don't know, but people are looking into that. Now we do have I have friends who they get famous on TikTok and then they make something of it. Like, for example, Summer England. She is not only a personality and a dear one, but she decided, "Hey, now that I'm getting this wonderful following, I'm gonna write a book."
Mhm.
And she found that passion, and now she's an author. That I love. I think TikTok and things like that are actually beneficial for artists, and also not beneficial because there are some contracts and some things I've applied for that go, "What's your following on TikTok or Instagram?" Because it matters now, which is terrible, you know? Oh, and it benefits people like, even like Lauren. Like, that makes sense. Like, the baby and these, what would you call them? These, not ads, but
Uh, user
sponsorships,
content
sponsorships.
sponsorship.
So
Mhm.
so in ways it does work out really well, and then in other ways it's like, "Oh, I don't have a big following, so we can't hire you," which really sucks. 'Cause, and it's something that I'm working on trying to go with myself of, like, I do like taking photos and videos and stuff, but will it look corny if I try to, like, make it like a thing, you know?
Well, yeah, I think that's Lauren and I, so for anybody listening and that doesn't know, my wife does social media and digital marketing. She runs our social media for our businesses, and she also has a personal page that where she will, partner with different brands and share products that she believes in and point people toward that stuff. So that's a little bit of context, but we were talking about content creation is a lot harder than it looks like when you're
It
on the
is.
consumer side, right?
Yeah.
And there is a whole lot of fear of like putting yourself out there in a specific way, and will people like this? Will they connect with it? Is it just me? Am I going to look like a fool? I think that's a big side of things. And then the other thing that I've noticed is that I, there's a very specific type of content that I like to make.
Mhm. Yep.
And it's this. I really enjoy talking to artists and digging into the industry and digging into storytelling and entrepreneurship. I love to talk about that. Um, but even for the content you love to make, it's still a grind to get it edited, posted,
Yeah.
liked,
And you don't get
commented.
paid to do that. You know what I
Mm,
mean? I've had a lot of
especially not in the
friends who.
beginning.
No, not at the beginning, because you are still putting it out there. I mean, Constance and I, we did those Hot Topic Tuesdays for the theater years ago, and we always talk about, like, trying to bring that back or making something of it. But it's like, 1, you have to find the time. 2, it is editing, it is time consuming, and 3, it is it what is a hobby at first quickly becomes a career, which I think is very interesting sometimes, which is what I love about social media, and then I also hate it too when it comes to certain other aspects about it. So I think that social media and TikTok and Instagram can be helpful when executed correctly, or, executed, not executed. Oh, help me out, Ben. When it's done with good intentions and a full heart. Some people, like this younger generation, they're out there just trying to get followers and likes, and it has nothing to do with art or or giving someone else a piece of knowledge, like what you're doing or what Lauren's doing, or even what Constance is doing with her videos of realtor with real estate. It's like, I'm here to educate you and also give you open this door to what our community looks like, you know? It always comes back to community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. You have to deliver value to the audience. So, you
that's
know,
what it is.
your followers become expect a certain product from you. That's why they follow you. We were saying, like, we don't follow that many businesses. Like, I don't follow that many businesses. There are a few. Um, I don't necessarily mind whenever businesses are in my feed, but the thing that converts me as a follower is if there's some form of value that I think is going to continue to be recurring from the feed. So that could be entertainment. It could be, like you said, knowledge. Um,
It could be like fashion choices. It's those damn TikTok dances, Ben. I'm like, stop it. Everyone knows no one needs to do this. But I guess that's a form of entertainment, so it is what it is. Like I follow the silliest accounts and they bring me so much joy. I guess it's everything's opinion based, but
and I think, Topher, it's a form of leverage too, right? Because at least it could be within the performing arts if we understood it and utilized it as a marketing engine to drive interest in this art form, in storytelling, in things like Shakespeare or Chekhov or ballet or classical music, where maybe it wasn't there before. But, you mentioned the public theaters, Shakespeare in the Park, and it, starts studded cast. And I think you were right that they did that to sell tickets because those people have an audience.
hmm
And if we had more of an audience in the theater, that would probably lead to more oxygen, more revenue to be, you know, sent to actors and artists and technicians and designers.
yeah. It's a fickle world we live in, isn't it? It really is. I don't know what holds tomorrow, but I just try to continue making art. I just continue trying to be grateful to have a good relationship with my friends and family. At the end of the day, I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for my friends and family. And I think that is so imperative in this world. And I think it's imperative to have faith, whatever faith it is, whether it's, and I'm not even talking about religion. It is imperative to have faith in this world, let alone as an artist working nonprofit or even corporate. I mean, those paychecks don't always come in either. You know what I mean? Those paychecks aren't always consistent if you do TV and film. You get a big fat one, and then after that, you have to find what the next one is. So yeah, I sound like, hopeless when it comes to the theater world. I just don't some days I don't think much of it, and when I do, I'm like, "Oh, yeah." Then I think I don't think much of it, and then when I do, I think too much of it.
Hey, y'all. If you're enjoying this conversation, I want to invite you to be a part of what we're building. Stageable is exploring new economic models for performing arts. If that idea resonates with you, visit stageable.com and join the email list. That's where we'll share new conversations, ideas, and the progress of the project. And if you'd like to help more people discover Ghostlight, follow the show or leave a review on your favorite podcast app. Now, back to the conversation. Well, so let me ask you this. When you inevitably, I would imagine you think about a world where it works better and it rewards actors and artists and what does that world look like? I mean, what do you think a model where it is sustainable, what would that mean from practical terms?
Well, I think where it's super sustainable, and I lived it here in Stanton for a while, and then some things happened, like the pandemic, but it's that idea of a company, which is great. You've been a part of one, I've been a part of one, a company member. That is where it's sustainable and consistent. But then there's also that idea of only a few get to enjoy that. So it's never going to be enough. Because then if the core company is an actor of 12 and maybe there's 3 or 4 that shift in and out every year, then that's 3 or 4 opportunities for 3 or 4 very specific people that might fit that season. And there are a lot of companies that are unspoken that are unspoken companies, like, I just worked at one this past, April through June, and in my head, I was like, "All these actors are from out of town." No, these actors had worked there for, like, 20 years, and then I had to go back and look at the history and went, "Oh, I'm the outlier here. I'm the one that kinda shifts." Me and, like, 2 other people are the ones that shift in and out, I guess. I guess for me, selfishly, what would make it sustainable is if I were a company member somewhere, or the goal always is for me to make companies love me or enjoy my presence so much, and that means on and off stage, that they can bring me back. The goal is always like, oh, if I'm down on my luck, I can call up, American Shakespeare Center, Denver Center, which these are just examples, but, like, Utah Shakes or whatever, to be like, hey, I have no work. Can I maybe have an opportunity to work out there? And like, yeah, sure, come on out. That's not how it works, and that's not uh, there are some instances where it does with certain uh, companies, and then there's some instances where it just doesn't fit in the matrix.
You've built a network of
Yeah, network
relationships
is
and
so
people, and
important.
yeah.
Yeah, I just always try to treat everyone nice, but I think in a perfect world, and this is perfect, everyone gets to do what they want to do and love what they do, because as much as I may vent, I still try to have grace, and I still try to be grateful. And I always say that. I always say, now I'm very grateful, but, and I want to keep that always at the forefront of, like, I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I'm having a bad day today. Or I don't know what's next and I'm scared. Or I totally blew that audition. I cannot believe that, I might not get that opportunity, but at least I'm grateful to be currently working where some people aren't. Um, but yeah, I think what would make it sustainable for me, well, I've already lived that a little bit. And it was sustainable. I had housing, I was on tour, I was getting paid, not much at the time because I was on equity, but I was getting paid and I had health insurance. That's sustainability.
Mhm.
That's the goal. If I could hop on from one to the next, that is my goal. If I did that the first couple years on my contract, I went from, I think, Denver Center to ASC to Utah Shakes to Denver Center. And now I'm ASC, don't know, Denver Center. And that don't know is 5 months. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do I do in those 5 months? Do I study for um do I study for my real estate license? Do I look into maybe into to becoming a tech person? Because then I can go anywhere with that job. I don't have to
Mhm.
be in just Virginia. Do I do voiceover work? The opportunities are endless. It's just my brain. I have severe ADHD. I need to be stimulated. I have to, be engaged in something, or else my brain just goes, "Pff," and then something else will come in, and it's just a swirly whirly gig up in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think sustainability is possible. Another thing I want to ask you, and I know this is, my I've been having some interesting relationship things happen recently, and I'm not in one, but I thought I might have been in one. But what sucks is the traveling. How did you negotiate that? If you don't mind me asking, like, do you think love is possible? I mean, you have to, because you are in love and you have a full wife and 2 beautiful babies who I want to see soon. How did you find that? What were the challenges and some of the cool things that came out of, like, being a traveling actor if you're not always with your spouse? Because so often it's hard for me to establish a relationship because of my career. That is something that I've always had a because I want to be in one. I don't seek
Mhm.
it, but if it happens organically, but then, rehearsals start happening, and, they live maybe 40 minutes to an hour away, and on my days off, I'm just so tired. Like, what is that? How did that look for you for the longest time?
You know, we didn't spend that much time apart.
Mm,
Lauren and I were in grad school at the University of Houston. That's where we met. And then we started dating after she had actually after both of us had finished the program. And let's see, what, let me make sure I'm getting this timeline right. she got a job in Pennsylvania, and then I got a job in Virginia. And so we did spend the first part of our relationship about 4 hours, 3 hours apart from one another driving.
Mhm.
Um, but then after that, we got married and we started working contracts together. And that just became
Mm.
kind of the pitch was, when we
I've
auditioned for
seen that.
ASC, we did it
I've
together and we're
seen
like,
that. I've
we're a
seen
unit.
so many couples able to make that pitch. So either I need to marry someone very rich and who's okay with me being away for so long, because that's another thing too, artists marrying artists. You both understand the lifestyle. I think for me, it's hard to find another actor for a long period of time and be like, "Let's make this work," because 'cause they're in New York, and I'm like, "Oh, honey, Imma be in Virginia." You
But
know what
here,
I
let me
mean?
let me tell you this. This is a little bit different, but I think it gets to your question, which is when my first daughter was born, I didn't have any businesses. I didn't own any businesses, and I didn't really have any marketable skills other than acting. And so I took a contract at Arkansas Shakes
Didn't you
and
play
spent.
Mac?
I played Mac. Yep, the
Yep,
the Scottish King. I'm not in the
yep.
theater, but
Yeah, yeah, but
at,
still, respectfully.
right at Arkansas, and so I missed. My daughter was 6 months old, and I missed like 6.5, 7 weeks of that period of her life because I was out working a contract. And that's the first and last time that I'm going to do that.
Mm,
It's a non-negotiable for me. I'm not giving up the time that I can never get back with someone that I love that much
mhm,
to for a career. It doesn't
yeah,
matter how, you know, uh, artistically fulfilling the career feels. It was even difficult to just do a contract that was it was probably 30-minute, 45-minute drive into rehearsals. Even that was giving up a lot of time with my kids and my wife.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, everything's a sacrifice. It's the same with me. It's like, yeah, I told we said this earlier in the chat of, I'm a family person, very close with my grandmother. And when I'm not working gigs, that's who I'm with. I'm with Ma. And so many people are like, "Why don't you come up to New York?" I'm like, I know this sounds so strange, and maybe it's a weird thing, but I said that's I get older, she gets older, and I would just hate. I'm not living my life just to be with my grandmother all the time because then I get like 6 months where I'm away. But when I am home, I cherish those memories because I was looking at old photos and I went, we all look so younger, but even 5 years ago. And look at us now. I've got gray in my beard. I'm getting closer to middle 30s, and I hear someone's getting inching closer to 40,
Yeah.
and it ain't me on this chat. So,
Mm-mm. So who
still
might
looking
that
good.
be?
Still looking good. But yeah, no, I love that idea of it is a sacrifice. And it's not just like you said, it's not any career, it's the sacrifice. And maybe that's what it is right now. I don't There are certain sacrifices I will make, but there are also certain sacrifices that I will not. Or some that I will just need to give or take. This is my career right now, and
Let me give you what
relationships are tough long distance.
let me give you what I think is my perspective. It's something that's been rattling around in my head a lot recently, and I'll get your response to it, which is we always get precisely what we want most in life, but it's that sacrifice. It's you can't have everything. And so every one of us, we're optimizing for what we most want. And we're getting it because if we wanted something else more than what we have, we would do whatever it takes to go get it.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and that's a great perspective. So you're saying I don't want to be in a relationship? I hear you. I hear you. I'll do that when I make more money. I think that's another thing too. It's just,
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, I was thinking about you before we got online, and I was like, I want to ask him this question about relationship and how that worked out for him. I mean, obviously I know how it worked out because I know you both, but what was it like getting there? Because even on contract, I have friends that I think that's another thing. It all depends on the person and the situation. I have friends that are in relationships all the time, and I ask them, "How does it work for you?" And there's always some different answer. I think the establishment is something that's tougher than keeping it ongoing. It's the establishing of like those early bits of, okay, so this is what I'm doing. Are you on board? And if not, then it was nice to know you. I'd love to stay friends. Because I'm in that right now. I met someone up in Luray, and he's busy, I'm busy, and I caught feelings. I know he did too for a spell, and I was thinking like, "Oh, this career means so much to me, and I'm not ready to sacrifice that quite yet, or at all, you know, um, to pursue that, but I do want that as well." It's that whole you can't have your cake and eat it too all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
that's the thing, right? If what you really wanted more than anything was to find your person, be in a relationship, then that might mean saying, I want that more than I want to follow this career path. And so
or
I
be
think,
in a place where I can do both. Like I'd have to be stable in one area, which I'm not. That's what it is. I'm not living in New York. I'm not living in Denver. I'm not necessarily even really living in Virginia because I'm traveling so much. And how does that work out when you're not in a constant place? So,
but it's what you said earlier in having faith. Like
mhm.
you are exactly where you are supposed to be because if you were supposed to be anywhere else, you'd be there.
Exactly. And we talk about it all the time, Constance and I. And even so many of my other friends of like, I never thought I'd even make it this far some days. And there are so many people that even the days where maybe I am being a little ungrateful because I am a human, there are so many people that would die to be in my shoes or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some days where I get a little envious of other people's career. There really is, I go, "Oh, shit, well, I auditioned for that Law& and Order scene. I just want 1 IMDb credit, and I swear I'll leave it be." But, uh, yeah, I think that faith really does go in touch with that. It really does intertwine with that of, to have faith is to keep going, no matter what the circumstance. So,
So in our last minutes here, if you were face to face with someone who's just starting out their career, another performer, what would be your top piece of advice for them?
find a better career. No, I would say, uh when in when you're face to face with self-doubt, continue on because that's not the reflection of that's not here I am trying to make up this big thing. I had the whole thing planned. It was but self-doubt is such a big thing in our industry, and it's inevitable. So when you come face to face with it, don't always believe it. Those are the lies you tell yourself. Those are the insecurities that creep into your body. And just know that being an individual is enough. Being an individual is enough. And you don't have to be the person who people say you remind them of. You don't have to be the person who you think you should be. Just be yourself. I think that's something I've had to constantly beat in myself. I tell you what, when I talk to people all the time, I say, I want, what's his name who played Uncle Phil? I wanted his career at the very beginning because I'm a big dude. I don't have his voice. I could if I worked hard at it, but I don't have it. But there is no one, and not to like puff my chest out, but there really is no one that I've ever been compared to, whether it's a celebrity or a friend or another actor that's someone. And I actually love that. It is it is tough, and it is also a great thing because no one really looks like me, and no one really acts like me, and to keep that and to continue to keep that individuality is so important. So, yeah, continue to be you. Don't follow the trend and march to the beat of your own drum, I think is what I would tell someone I just met or tell my younger self of,
Mm,
yeah, you did
yeah.
good. You did all right. You did good.
Yeah, I
But
love
yeah.
that. That's so true. And the the thing that came to mind for me was like there no one can play Hamlet the way that you will play Hamlet.
Ooh, that's a good one.
You know, it's just not possible. And I think of any great performer that I admire, and whether I have seen them play Hamlet or not seen them play Hamlet, any great performer, I'm like, I would love to see what they do with that role.
Mm.
I feel like I could spend the rest of my life watching Topher do a version and Constance Swain do a version, and
Constance
like
was like, "I'd be a great Hamlet." I was like, "Honey, that's too many lines. I don't wanna play Hamlet. You can see me as Rosencrantz or Guildenstern if you like, but you ain't gonna see my Hamlet. I won't bother learning the lines." Have you done Hamlet?
I did, yeah. I had the pleasure of doing it for Houston Shakespeare Festival.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I would love to do that role again.
You've got
I would love
time.
to do that role. Yeah, I've got time. I'm
You do.
not even 40 yet, Topher.
Who said that? 40? I thought you were but 32. Hell,
uh,
27. You still got it. You and Lola both. You both look great.
my dad joke was when I played young Scrooge this last contract was this is the last time that young is going to precede a character name of mine.
That's not true. That's not true. That is not true. You still look damn good.
Oh, well, right back at you.
Thank you.
Well, Toph, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. It was a pleasure to talk to you. I hope that you'll come back on again sometime.
Oh, I love being on the potty. Thank you. I love a good potty.
Perfect, perfect. Well, go and be well, continue to rock and roll, and be 100% authentically you because you are amazing.
Thank you. Love you, Ben.
Love you too, brother. Bye.